So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I love talking all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I am reviewing the Snow White remake. So, let's get into it, shall we? Snow White. The Snow White remake. So this is the newest film to be part of Disney's mission to remake their entire back catalogue. I mean, quite literally. Later on this year, we've got the Lilo and Stitch remake coming out, and then next year, we've got the live-action remake of the first Moana coming out. And how long ago did the first Moana come out? I think it was only in 2016, which isn't that long ago in terms of the movie world. Yeah, this is the newest film to be part of that family, if you will, of Disney remakes, and live-action Disney remakes at that, because I don't consider all their remakes, like I don't consider the Lion King remake to be a live-action remake, because it's not got any live-action element in it, apart from one shot at the start of the film, but nevertheless, it is a remake of the original Lion King, and this is a remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, if you hadn't guessed already, and it is a live-action remake at that. You have live-action elements, you know, interacting with CGI element in this film as well. So not only is it a remake, not only is it a Disney remake of one of their own movies, but it's also a live-action remake at that. And this film has been in production for quite a bit of time. Disney have been talking about doing a Snow White remake for forever. And now that it's finally here, it has been shrouded, and I mean shrouded, in controversy. There is so much quote-unquote, quote-unquote controversy surrounding this film. Some of which I think is legitimate, some of which I just think is stupid. But I'm going to address the controversy because everybody else can be doing their reviews, and I don't feel I'd be doing this review correctly if I didn't give my thoughts on the context surrounding this film. So, if you don't know already, the quote-unquote controversy surrounding this film is because of Rachel Ziegler's comment. And Rachel Ziegler, if you don't know already, she plays Snow White in this remake. Her comment on the original Snow White, which she made at D23, I want to say in 2022, I know I'm not sure, but she made some not particularly great comment on the first Snow White, on the original Snow White film, and some people have also grown a disliking to her because of her political stance. She has, well, if you didn't know already, on Twitter, she's been very anti-Trump. Ever since he has been elected again, ever since being re-elected, she's been very anti-Trump, and some people, particularly some people who spend a little too much time on the internet, do not like that. And at the same time, Gadot, who's playing the evil queen in this film, she's got a political stance on the Israel and Palestine situation, which people do not like, which quite a few people don't agree with. And at the same time, regarding the film more, there is some controversy surrounding set photos, surrounding a particular infamous, because it is now infamous, and I'm not quite sure why it's infamous, but it is, this infamous set photo from Snow White, which depicted 7 characters, and everyone was like, oh my god, they've taken out the 7 dwarfs from this Snow White remake. When, in actuality, if you waited for the film to come out, you'd realise that they're just a different set of characters. I'm not going to give away who they are in the film, but this set photo that people were getting so annoyed about has nothing to do with the 7 dwarfs. But the 7 dwarfs are still in this film, and people do not like the look of the 7 dwarfs in this film. Me included, I'll be honest. When I saw the trailers for this film, there was something about the dwarfs which did not look right. They looked surreal and not in a good way. They looked like, they've been cooked up in Frankenstein's lab, and I do not mean that in a good way whatsoever. So yes, some people had problems with the look of the dwarfs for this live-action Snow White remake, and I'll be honest, I am one of them. And that's one of the only legitimate pieces of controversy that I think you can say surrounding this film. I think people have a problem with Rachel Ziegler. Just need to get over it. The amount of middle-aged men, I mean, I hate to use the word men when it comes to talking about these people, because they're not men. They're like boys getting annoyed about something in a schoolyard back in like year 4 in primary school, you know what I mean? They're not men, but at the same time, that's what they identify as. So, yeah, the amount of middle-aged men that are whining about Rachel Zegler's comment on a film is ridiculous. I get that the original Snow White is so dear to so many people. It isn't dear to me, and I'll talk about that very briefly in this review. But I get that the original Snow White means so much to so many people. But at the same time, she is not the first person to talk about a film in a particular way. You know, how many times have you heard the actors, well, yeah, a lot of the actors from the original Star Wars trilogy talk about how they're not really fans of the film. Alec Guinness has spoken about at length how he doesn't get Star Wars. So has Harrison Ford. You don't hear the same middle-aged men who've been whining about Rachel Zegler's comments, whining about Harrison Ford, and whining about Alec Guinness's comments on the original Star Wars movies. I just don't get it. Yes, Rachel Zegler made some not-so-great comments about the original Snow White, but she's young. She made some mistakes. I've made some daft comments in the past which I have instantly regretted, and I bet you have as well. So I do not understand why so many people are making video after video after video after video after video after video talking about Rachel Zegler's comments on the original Snow White. Get over it. She made a mistake saying the wrong things. Everybody does that. It is sickening. And the amount of people going on about her political stance as well. It's like, yeah, she's anti-Trump. So what? I don't care. I mean, I'm anti-Trump as well. I'm not a fan of Trump either. But her political stance isn't going to change my liking or disliking of this movie whatsoever. You know, Dennis Quaid has come out as very anti-Trump. And yet, when I reviewed The Substance, I was instead there going, well, I mean, I like the film, but Dennis Quaid, I didn't like him in it because he's pro-Trump. No, I just put it to the side when I watched the film. I really think people should judge a film on its own merits, because the thing is about this Snow White remake, before it come out, way before it came out, about a year ago, people were already judging it, saying it's going to be a disaster, a train wreck, and I'm like, but the film hasn't even come out yet. Let's just wait for it to come out, and if it is bad, then let's talk about why it's bad. But it's not going to be bad because of some comments Rachel Zegler made. It's not going to be bad because of her political stance, or because of Gal Gadot's political stance, or because of some leaked set photo which people got mad about. It's not going to be bad for any of those reasons. It's just going to be bad because it's a bad film, or it's going to be good because it's a good film. Let's just wait for it to come out. So yeah, there's been all that quote-unquote controversy surrounding this film, which has made many people already make their minds up about the film before seeing it. But not for me, no. You know, I wanted to watch this film and judge it in the way I judge all the other movies I review on this channel, when I'm watching it and when I'm reviewing it after. I did not want any of the outside quote-unquote controversy surrounding this film to affect my viewing experience. I honestly, for the most part, I get the controversy surrounding the Dwarfs, but all the other stuff I could not care less about in terms of this movie. All the other quote-unquote controversy, I could not care less about. However, I'll be honest, I wasn't particularly excited about this film because I didn't think the trailers looked great, and I've not really been a fan of the Disney remakes that we've had over the past however many years since they've started making them. I think the first live-action Disney remake, well, the first one would have been 101 Dalmatians, which came out in 1996, but if you want to count the later live-action remakes, since Cinderella came out in 2015, you know, that's when we started to get a lot more of these live-action Disney remakes because Cinderella was such a success. And I enjoyed Cinderella, I thought it was a good film. And I also enjoyed the Little Mermaid remake. I remember having a good time watching that in the cinema. Apart from them two movies, though, I have not really enjoyed any of the other Disney remakes. I did not like The Lion King, I did not like Aladdin. I thought Dumbo was quite awful, actually. I was about to say it's quite bad. No, I thought it was awful. I remember being severely disappointed by the film. I think Tim Burton is as well. Tim Burton, who directed that movie, I think even he hates that film, which tells you how bad it is. I haven't seen all of them. Like, I didn't watch the Mulan remake, but I also remember watching the Beauty and the Beast remake and being very let down by that as well, thinking, what were they going for with this film? I've not really been a fan of a lot of the Disney remakes that we've had over the past, about 10 years now. So that is another reason I wasn't particularly excited about seeing this film, and I didn't think the Dwarfs looked great in the trailers, and I just, I'm kind of done with Disney live action remakes. I went to go and watch this film because I was hoping to find some enjoyment in it, like I did with The Little Mermaid and like I did with Cinderella. But even with those two films, even with Cinderella and Little Mermaid, they're not great films. They're not something special, and that's the thing. The original films are something special. And I was just getting worried that this film wasn't going to be something special, because say what you will about the original Snow White movie, it has aged badly, you know, the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So parts of it, I should say, there are parts of it which have aged badly, but it is a special movie for so many reasons. And it's not a film, I will admit, I grew up watching loads as a child. It wasn't like Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which I grew up watching non-stop as a child, and I still think it's the best animated movie of all time. I don't love it like that movie, but I did watch it when I was a kid a couple of times, but then I didn't really watch it again until last week. You know, I rewatched the original Snow White last week in preparation for watching this remake, in preparation for doing this review today. And I will admit, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was really good. But I don't quite understand why so many people think it's one of the best animated movies of all time. I personally don't. However, I can see why it's something special. And I was yet again worried that this was going to be another live-action Disney remake, which wasn't going to be anything special and just be another middling take on something we've already seen before. But I went into the film yesterday at the cinema hoping for the best, hoping to be pleasantly surprised by this film, and hoping to prove all those naysayers wrong. All those people have been going on about Rachel Zegler non-stop, hoping to prove them wrong, and actually say that not only is this film great, but she is brilliant as Snow White. That is what I was hoping for when it came to this film. So I went into the cinema yesterday with an open mind. And honestly, I hate to say it, but this film wasn't for me, as I kind of expected. And I feel bad saying that, but it is the truth. I did not think this film was for me. But I didn't think it was terrible. It's not a terrible film, and it's not the worst of the Disney remakes. I prefer this over the Lion King remake. You know what? I also prefer over the Aladdin remake. I thought both of those movies were particularly poor, and I thought this movie had some things going for it. However, it also had a lot of things which made it quite a perplexing and heartless watch, because that's the main problem with this film. It is heartless. It does not have a heart, and it just feels like another tick on a checklist for Disney to remake all their old animated movies. That's what it feels like. It just feels like, yeah, Disney can cross us off now. They've remade Snow White. What's next? Because it doesn't really feel like there was a passion, and that Disney actually really wanted to make this movie. It doesn't have a heart, and you can feel that throughout. So much of the film just feels fake, and I mean fake with a capital F. I didn't believe in the world that I was watching. I didn't find it immersive, and I think when you get to a film like this, which has taken place in this fantastical world, in this fanciful world, you need it to be immersive. You need to be taken into this world and feel like you're there with the characters. But I never felt like I was. Yeah, sure, the production design and the set design is well done, but it never felt authentic to me. I never believed I was in this world with these characters, and I think another thing which contributes to that is the costume design. I did not think the costume design for this film was particularly great. Although, and I'll get onto this more later on in this review, although I thought Rachel Zegler was spectacular in the film, I truly thought she was spectacular in the film, the Snow White costume she's wearing looked like she cosplayed as Snow White and went to Disneyland for a day and then ended up on the site of Snow White. The costume design for Snow White does not look updated enough. It it doesn't work. It looks like she's wearing a Snow White costume. It doesn't look like she's actually Snow White. I believed her Snow White because of her performance, and again, I thought she was wonderful in the film, and I'll talk about that more as this review goes on, but I did not buy into her as Snow White because of her costume design. I did not think it looked updated enough, and Gal Gadot looks like she's in a pantomime. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing her name, by the way, but she looks like she's in a pantomime, and I like Gal Gadot. I've enjoyed her ever since Wonder Woman. I thought she was wonderful in that film, and there was something else I saw which I didn't mind her. Actually, no, I did not like her in Death on the Now, but still, I liked her as Wonder Woman. So there we go. However, I thought she was poor in this film. I thought she gave quite a bad performance, because the thing is, she's overacting, and it's not working at all. Her performance became more annoying as the film went on, and she's given these musical numbers, and I'll talk about the musical numbers and the songs very shortly in this review, but she's given these musical numbers which contribute nothing to the plot, and you're watching it going, first of all, okay, yeah, Gal Gadot is a beautiful woman, but she cannot sing to save her life. I mean, I can't sing anyway, so who am I to say anything? But Gal Gadot cannot sing to save her life, and yet you're giving all the musical numbers, and none of it's grabbing me. None of her performance is really working for me. I did not believe her as Evil Queen, and she's overacting so much. She's hamming it up, and yet it became more annoying as the film went on, and her costume looked like it was from a pantomime. It looked like she'd walked off a Snow White pantomime which was taking place around the turn of the year, and then ended up in this film and she wasn't really sure what performance to give, and the director didn't want to give a note because she's quite a beautiful person, so they just went with her performance because she's the way she is. But I did not think her performance worked. And going back onto the songs and musical numbers in this film, they do not really work, and that's a big problem for a musical, because at the end of the day, if you didn't know already, Snow White, and this version of Snow White at that, the Snow White remake is a musical, and one of the big problems with this film is that the new songs aren't catchy at all. I mean, it's all subjective, maybe people feel differently, but they weren't catchy at all, and they did not pass a Spotify test for me. If you don't know what a Spotify test is, I talked about it when I viewed Wicked last year. The Spotify test is, do you feel the need to listen to the music for Snow White after? Do you feel the need to listen to the music from a musical on Spotify after you saw the movie, in the 24 hours after you saw the film? And I felt no need at all to listen to the music for this film. I felt no need. And not only are the new songs not catchy, but the old songs, the classic songs, hi ho, it's off to work we go, and what a whistle while you work. I mean, I can't whistle to save my life, but those classic songs that are also in this film from the original Snow White are somehow ruined when it comes to this film. Like, hi ho, they make into a big musical number where the dwarfs are all dancing around the mines. You're like, what? No, it's just a chant in the original film, which is the miners' chant that they did every time they went into the mine, and yet in this film they make it into a big musical number to introduce the dwarfs, and it felt too Disneyfied, which I didn't know was possible, but apparently it is. And Whistle While You Work is also made into this big musical number, which doesn't work. Plus, it's one of those musicals where whenever someone's about to start singing, you verbally eye roll. It's one of those musicals where the songs don't really add anything to the story. I love musicals where the songs add something to the story and do something and explain something that exposition would have taken 10 minutes to explain. But when you get to this movie, it's like the whole film stops to have a musical number, and when someone starts singing, you verbally eye roll, and I do not like a musical like that. And yet, this is one of those musicals. And on to the topic of the dwarfs, they don't have the same charm that they had in the original. The dwarfs lack charm, and the look of the dwarfs did bother me. I really wanted it not to bother me. I really wanted to be wrong about the look of the dwarfs. I wanted to come out of this movie and say, you know what? This movie did not work for me, but I didn't want to come out of the movie saying that, but I wanted to come out of this movie. I was hoping I was going to come out of this movie saying, you know what? The dwarfs were actually one of the big redeeming features when it came to this film, but unfortunately, they are not. The look of the dwarfs is not good. It's not good at all, and it doesn't fit with the film because you have these real life people playing characters in the film alongside the dwarves in plenty of scenes, but they don't fit in with the film. When I've heard they use motion capture technology, you know what Andy Serkis used when he played Gollum in the Lord of the Rings films, when he played Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies, and you know when he played King Kong in the King Kong film, you know they use motion capture technology for the dwarves, for the actors playing the dwarves in this film, but it just doesn't work. I would have preferred it. I'm going back onto the topic of Lord of the Rings, which I just briefly brought up there. I would have preferred it if they did the dwarves in the same way that the dwarves were done in the Hobbit movies. I thought the way they did the dwarves in the Hobbit movies, getting these actors who are not little people but playing little people, was done particularly well because of the way Peter Jackson shot that. But because of the way Peter Jackson shot the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies, you know they have dwarf characters in those films, but because of camera trickery and because of the way they use sets in those movies, I mean I can't really explain it off the top of my head because it's just so mind-boggling the way they made the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, but the way they made the dwarves look small in those films was effective in my opinion. I would have preferred it if this film did it that way. If you had these famous actors coming to play the Seven Dwarfs and use camera trickery and you use different sets to make them look like they're in the same room as Rachel Zegler playing Snow White, but actually they're in a completely different set, but you're just making them look smaller. I don't know how well I'm explaining myself there, but I would have preferred it if the dwarves looked like they did. I would have preferred it if they did the dwarves the same way they did the dwarves in the Hobbit movies and in the Lord of the Rings films. I just would have preferred that personally, because I do not think the dwarves were effective in this film, and they were one of the reasons that I felt this film was very unengaging, because I could not get past the dwarves, because they're one of the main factors, one of the big elements of this movie, and I couldn't get past them. And there's this love story in the film which I found very unconvincing, and again this film just looked so fake. I mean, it does have its moment, it does have its perks. Rachel Zegler, as I've already said, is spectacular, and I mean spectacular as Snow White. I don't understand why people have got such a problem with her, because she can sing. I mean, people have already seen that from when she played Maria in the West Side Story remake directed by Steven Spielberg. I thought she was absolutely incredible in that film, and I thought she was probably the best part of the Hunger Games prequel, which came out a couple of years ago now, and I thought she was actually alright in Shazam 2 as well, but I mean, she wasn't given much to do in that film, but I thought she was alright. But in this film, she is the best thing about the film. You can tell that she cares about playing this character. You can tell that she's got a heart in this production, even though not everyone else has, clearly. But you can tell that she has got a heart in this production. You can tell that she wants to make it the best film possible. And in my opinion, she made it watchable. She made this film watchable because of the charisma, because of the joy, and because of the energy she brought to her performance. If it wasn't for her, I don't know if I would have enjoyed the film at all. I don't know if I would have found it watchable, but there were parts I enjoyed of the film because of her. And I did think that the film wasn't badly produced. Another way of saying that is I thought the film was well produced, you know. I did think this was a well produced film because you can clearly tell that a lot of time and energy and money, apparently a lot of money, about $250 million worth of money, was put into this film. And there are a lot of parts of the film, a lot of CGI which I actually thought looked decent. Although I didn't like the look of the dwarves, clearly a lot of CGI has been put onto the dwarves, a lot of money has been put into to try and make the dwarves work, and you can tell that when you're watching the film, and I admire the amount of effort and energy that's gone into making this film. But in the end, I came out of the film and I just thought it was a complete mess, because the story is stretched out in a way that doesn't work. They try to give character arcs to characters who don't need it, like the woodcutter, I think it's a woodcutter, who's meant to kill Snow White but let her go. You know, it's ordered to kill Snow White by the evil queen. They give him a character arc in this film. I'm like, why? There's no purpose to that. And they do this whole thing with these bandits and this character who's basically Robin Hood, who's a love interest for Snow White in this film. But you're not really sure why that's in there. It doesn't really do anything to the plot. They didn't need the whole bandits element to the film. And the dwarfs don't have the same charm, and they don't look right. They don't look normal. They look like something out of a horror movie. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's the way I felt when I watched the film. And if I wasn't being honest, what's the point of me doing this review today? And I did not think the songs worked. I did not think they were catchy, the new songs. And I thought the classic songs were somehow ruined. And I thought the film had way too much CGI and just felt fake. And I keep going back to that. I've gone back to that 3 times in this review now, but well, at least 3 times. But that's how I felt when I was watching it. And so much of the film was just like, what are we doing this for? What is the purpose of this film? And, well, the purpose is to make money. I mean, the purpose of any Disney movie is to make money, clearly. No one's, Bob Iger, who's the CEO of Disney, he's not sat there greenlighting film thinking, you know what, I hope we make no money from this. So clearly the intention is to make money from this film, but there should have... I don't like when a film feels like it's a cash grab. And I really hate it because I wanted to be surprised by this film. I wanted to feel the same way about this film as I felt about the Little Mermaid remake, the Little Mermaid remake, and the Cinderella remake. I wanted to be pleasantly surprised by it. But I ended up coming out of this film thinking it was heartless, and that it was just, that it felt like a cash grab. That it didn't need to exist. And, that pains me to say that because, again, I want to be pleasantly surprised by this film. But ultimately, it is just bad. Not terrible. I do not think it's a terrible film. And I think that it's watchable because of Rachel Zegler. And I think even if you're not a fan of her, just, separate the artist from the art and watch the film, and I do think you'll be surprised by how much you enjoy her in the film. But but she doesn't save it. That's the thing. She doesn't save the film. And what you get is this, this take on Snow White, which is just very underwhelming and very perplexing to watch. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Snow White, I'm going to say that it's a 3 out of 10. I'm not going to give it lower than a 3 out of 10 because I didn't think it was terrible, but I feel like I'm being a bit generous when I give it a 3 out of 10 at that. I've heard some people complaining about the messaging in this film. Please get over yourself. There's been messaging in Disney films and in all movies since the 1920s, since Disney was established as a company, as a movie company. There's been messaging in all their films. That's one of Disney's traits. I've heard some people complain and go, oh, this film's got a message and we don't like that. Almost every film ever made has a message. Get over it. That's the way films are made. So many films are made to reflect the times we're living in. It's just the way it is. The chances are your favourite film has a message. And you shouldn't forget that. So yeah, I do not care about the messaging in this film whatsoever. But personally for me, this is another heartless and worthless Disney remake. And I think I'm pretty much done with the Disney remakes now. Unless I hear that the next one is brilliant, yeah, I think I'm over them. I will be watching the next one. Yeah, I just don't see the point in them. And Snow White solidified that for me. And so, all in all, as I've already said, and as I'm going to say once more in this podcast today, Snow White is a 3 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that's it for this podcast today. If you have seen Snow White, if you have seen the Snow White remake, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And please be respectful. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and everyone has an opinion on a movie in their own way. And at the end of the day, it's just a movie. If you disagree with me, you disagree with me. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast. I look forward to many more podcasts and many more videos coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you as always for watching or listening to this podcast. And we finally got there in the end. I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.